Hello everyone, Waa Ri here. I hope all's well. So I have a little story once again, and this one is the importance of not blowing your own horn. Soomaalida waxay tiraahdaa it's not sidaad isu taqaan ma waa sida lagu yaqaan. So anyway, so many years ago, I was going through a heartbreak and I was reeling from a breakup, and I was really hurting. And so you know how it is, all your friends want to introduce you to different people. Many of them thought, that I didn't really know how to choose them, how to pick them. And they thought I was some of them used to say to me, well, you're kind of superficial. You like good-looking men, and they're not always the best kind. I disagree, though. I think good hearts and being honorable has nothing to do with being good looking or not. Anyway, so this particular friend of mine calls me and she says, I have the perfect guy for you. You have to meet him. He's good looking, from a good family. He's an engineer. The brother makes a lot of money. He'll be able to take care of you. And I'm like, listen, I am a free bird. I was born to be free and not contained. I can't imagine, going for anyone because they have a good job or they have money. I'm free spirit. I like to kind of meet my own people and, go with my gut, And so she's like, no, you gotta meet them. So I said, no, I'm a romantic. I like that first impression, that hope for love at first sight kind of thing, you know how it is. So anyway, so she says, I don't care what you say, I'm gonna give him your number. I'm like, I don't think so. I'm not gonna talk to him. So one day somebody calls, I answered the phone, it's this guy. I won't say his name. But so he says, hey, my name is so-and-so, and so-and-so told me about you, and she said you're so good looking. This guy, that's all he was concerned about, men. And so so he says, she told me how good looking you are, and and I wanna marry a Somali sister. And so he was not born in Somalia. So he said, and so she thinks we're a perfect fit. Tell me about you, he says. Describe yourself. I was like, excuse me? What? You're the one who's calling. I didn't call you. And he's like, of course I didn't want to be rude though, but I said, I don't know how to describe myself. Well, he said, well, so-and-so said you're gorgeous. I said, beauty is objective. I can't say that, but, and he's like, well, just describe yourself. So I said, well, I'm kind of short. I am a little chubby, and I'm not that smart either. I'm just an ordinary gal. Just very simple. He's like, there was a silence, on the other end of the phone. So he's like, well, that's not what she told me. And I said, well, and truly that's how I was feeling at that time, because, when you are going through a heartbreak, if the whole world tells you that you're beautiful, smart, charming, whatever, you just don't see it, you don't feel it, because you're like, well, if I'm all that, why couldn't I get the person that I wanted to be with? Which could be, again, like I said before, that unanswered prayers. You don't see it in the beginning, but you'll find out later, hopefully. So and I said, what about you? And he's like, well, I'm 6'3", I'm well built, I run marathons, and I work out all the time, and I eat right. And he described himself as a perfect person, or almost perfect. So I said, okay, well, nice to meet you. I don't think we're a good fit, but, I wish you well in your search. And so 2 weeks passed, and I was living in this building, a secure building, And the security calls me and says, somebody is waiting for you downstairs. I'm like, I'm not waiting for anyone, you know. I wasn't expecting for anyone. So I go down, and there he was. It was him. I didn't know at the time, but I'm like, who are you? Wearing my little das and my little, you know, I was a lot younger. I was wearing little, you know, shorts. So I said, and who are you? And he's like, well, I'm so and so. I was done. I was like, well, why are you here? It's like, well, I wanted to meet you. And I said, well, why do you have to surprise me like that? And he's like, well, you know, I just wanted to make sure that I didn't want to call you, because you know how it is, women. You guys get ready and put a lot of makeup, and you know, I just wanted to make sure that, you know, I wanted to meet the real you with nothing, you know, other than, you know, just basically just wearing your stay-at-home clothing. So I have to tell you, he was not, I mean, yes, he was tall, he was handsome, but when somebody describes themselves as all that and more, you expect them to be like, you imagine this like extraordinarily handsome or beautiful creature. And yes, he was handsome, but not to the extent of how he described himself. Or maybe because I imagine, you know, this person who is like perfection. You know, but because I describe myself as, you know, an ordinary person, he thought I was like out of this world. And he was like, why did you say all those bad things about yourself? You're so hot. And I said, well, I don't think I don't feel, you know, all that good looking, but, you know, maybe because I didn't describe myself to be this perfect, you know, as perfect as you described yourself to be. So, you know, it's so important to just be humble and be simple and not just, you know, nowadays you have all these girls, you know, on Facebook, they send you the friendship requests, and they're heblaayo qalancho and heblaayo qurux badan and heblaayo this and wiilka sanadka, and it's just ridiculous. I don't understand. So anyway, there it is. So I have a little song for you, the song that I used to sing when I was going through that heartbreak, and it's Farhiya Ali, and she says, way dhimatay loo ku naxariiso, but it's called, I think it's called Tala Adun. So she says, Goblan Tala Adunyo, Ashagani Galayo. Gedada kidaay igubtaya naftayday adiguna gara daran waa goorma goortaad gocashada ilowda. Till our next story, you take care.